Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. Today I'm going to be kicking off a new review series on one of the most requested electric scooters on this channel, the VMAX VX4 LT edition. Now, I've had my eye on VMAX scooters for quite some time, and I actually had the opportunity to get up close and personal with their scooters at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, Nevada this past January. And I'll tell you what, I was very impressed with the sleek, no-frills design of their scooters, as well as some of the performance specs across their entire lineup. So what I'm going to be doing today is a detailed feature overview as well as first impressions ride to see what this VX4 is all about. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be posting a full range test, hill climb test, extreme hill climb test. We'll do some night rides. We'll cruise around the neighborhoods, and then we're going to bring all of that together in a comprehensive end-to-end review. That way you have all the information you need to make an informed decision. Now, full disclosure, VMAX did send this over for review purposes, but as always, all thoughts, opinions, and conclusions are my own. And if at the end of all of this you decide you want to purchase one of these, I will include a link in the description below as well as a coupon code, and if you use that to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. So thank you in advance. Now, without further delay, let's jump into the details. Alright folks, so this is the VMAX VX4 LT edition in all of its glory. A couple high-level stats for you here. VMAX does have this listed at 60.4 pounds. I actually threw it on my commercial scale here and it actually weighs in at 62.2 pounds. Now, one of the really impressive stats for this scooter is the fact that it supports riders up to 330 pounds. It's 150 kilograms, which puts this above and beyond the 265 pounds or 120 kilograms that we typically see with a lot of this scooter's competitors. So, if you're a heavier rider or you like to carry around a lot of cargo, this VX4 should more than meet your needs. In terms of the packaging on this scooter, it actually arrived at my doorstep in excellent condition. So, there were no dings, dents, scratches, or scuffs to note. And when it comes to the assembly of this scooter, it actually couldn't get any easier. All you got to do is attach one of the connectors, fish the wires down the stem, attach the handlebar, secure it with the 4 included hex screws, and that's it. That's as simple as it gets. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that immediately caught my eye about the VMAX series of scooters is their sleek, no-frills design. And you can absolutely see that here with the VX4, which to be honest with you is a breath of fresh air. Zooming in on some of the design elements of this scooter, here up front you've got this black plastic fender which has got ample coverage, which should go a long way in keeping the elements off of you. If you look at the frame of the scooter, it is made of this black aluminum with very clean weld lines, which is always nice to see. And then looking at the main body of this scooter, it is very angular in its design. And if you haven't noticed already, all VMAX scooters come in this deep black color, which kind of gives it like Batmobile vibes, which I really like. But as I mentioned, very angular, very geometric in its design, basically a rectangle with very nice sharp edges. And that geometry continues through this silicone deck, as you can see with the patterning, and then it abruptly ends here at the end. And then you've got this rear kick plate that jets out the rear end of the scooter, and it's got a very nice angle to it, so we'll absolutely be putting that to the test. And within this kick plate is going to be part of our latching mechanism, which we'll look at here in a moment. Another design element on the scooter I want to point out is going to be the rear swing arms. As you can see, they've got this plastic trim, and you know, there are a lot of companies out there that put plastic trim on their swing arms, but VMAX goes a step further and they actually include or extend that trim onto the inside of the swing arms. That way you don't see any other cables or components or anything like that, which gives this scooter a very sleek look. And here at the rear we also have this massive full coverage fender, which once again should go a long way in keeping the elements off of you. Another thing to call out is going to be the positioning of this kickstand. Now with scooters, a lot of times you have kickstands that are mounted here, or you have kickstands that are mounted here. What VMAX did was they actually incorporated the kickstand into the lines of the rear swing arm, so it blends in very well. Another thing to mention with this scooter is going to be the location of the charge port. Now on a lot of scooters, you'll have a charge port mounted on the side, or you'll have some charge ports mounted at the top of the deck, or on the neck of the scooter, and sometimes those can get in the way, and other times these side-mounted charge ports can get damaged if you drop the scooter or fall off of it. The nice thing about this VMAX scooter is that they actually incorporated the charging port into the kick plate, so you've got this rubber weatherproof seal here, And there you go. There's your charging port, completely out of the way and not at risk of being damaged. Shifting over to the features of this scooter, here at the rear, you'll see you've got this nice little tail light, which also doubles as a brake light. So as I pull on these brake levers, that tail light actually gets brighter, letting people behind you know that you're slowing down. Also at the rear here, we do have our left and right hand turn signals, which come out of the rear kick plate. And as you can see, these are plenty bright, but we'll absolutely be putting that to the test during some night rides. When it comes to brakes on scooters, you normally have two options, either disc brakes or drum brakes. With this VMAX VX4, you actually have both. So here at the rear, we've got these nut cable actuated brakes with, get this, 160 millimeter rotors, which are absolutely huge for a scooter, especially a single motor scooter. A lot of times with these rotors, we see 120 millimeters, maybe 140, but with 160, we really are getting into e-bike territory. So this scooter should have more than sufficient stopping power, but we'll absolutely be putting that to the test. And up front here, we do have our drum brake, which also has a quick adjust knob. The tires on this scooter are 10-inch by 2.75-inch tubeless pneumatic nylon tires that do have this hybrid tread to them, so that should give you plenty of grip both on and off the beaten path. One thing that I really like about the VX4 is the fact that it is a full suspension scooter. Now it's going to be hard to see here because this is fully enclosed, but the rear suspension on this scooter does use a rubber block. And I've tested a lot of scooters that use kind of rubber block suspension, and I found them to be more than sufficient for most of your day-to-day riding, so we'll absolutely be putting that to the test. Here up front, we do have our front fork hydraulic suspension with up to 2 inches of travel. Powering this scooter is this rear 500 nominal watt hub motor, which is capable of cranking out 1600 watts of peak power. That should be enough power to get this scooter up to its advertised top speed of 25 miles an hour. Another thing to mention about this rear motor is that it also provides you with your electronic regenerative braking. Looking at the deck, there is plenty of foot space here, so if we measure this out from the rear all the way up to the front here, you're looking at about 19.25 inches. In terms of the width, we're looking at about 8 inches, and this rear kick plate here measures in at approximately 5 inches. So plenty of deck space to position your feet however you please. And the height from the top of the deck all the way up to the top of the handlebars is 40.5 inches. The battery on this VX4 LT is a 48 volt, 13 amp hour battery, which is good for 624 watt hours of capacity. And according to VMAX, should get you up to 34 miles of range. Now that is going to be a theoretical figure. We'll absolutely be doing a real world range test in the coming weeks. One of the things that I absolutely love about VMAX scooters is they give you choice when it comes to the batteries. I can't tell you how many times I've had people comment on other scooter videos where they're like, hey, the scooter looks fantastic, I wish it just had a little bit bigger of a battery. Not an issue with VMAX because they actually give you 3 battery configurations. So the LT version, which is what you see here, has a 13 amp hour battery. The ST version, or the middle tier, has an 18.2 amp hour battery. And at the very top end, you have the GT series, which comes with a 23.2 amp hour battery. So if you want more range, you can absolutely get that with one of the larger battery variants. Another thing to call out is this scooter is certified to the UL 2272 standard. And if you're curious what charge times look like on this bad boy, it does come with a 2 amp charger, and given it's a 13 amp hour battery, you're looking at about 6.5 hours of charge time from 0% to 100%. All right, so working our way up the scooter, here you will see the latching mechanism, which is a critical component of every scooter. And this particular latching mechanism does have some safeties built in. For example, this thing here, you can't just pull it off. It's not just gonna pop off. You actually have to lift this lever here and then pull the latch down. But even that's not it, because right now, you know, there's some wiggle, but it's not going anywhere. In order to detach this, you actually have to push this down, and then you can fold the stem down. And as you lower that stem towards the rear deck, you can actually come here to the rear kick plate, hit this lever, it will expose this latching mechanism, and there you go. It is locked into place, and you can now carry this scooter around. Just be aware that when you lower the stem, it will disengage, so you don't want to be bouncing this around as you're carrying it. And if you'd like to see that rear motor in action, well, here you go, full throttle. And we'll go ahead and engage our disc brakes. Nice. As you can see, it's got a very nice and quiet motor operation. And one of the things I immediately noticed is there's no kind of wobble or anything here, so this is a very well balanced rear wheel out of the box. Working our way up the stem here, you will see we've got the VMAX logo here. It is etched into the metal itself, so it's no decal or anything like that. Then as we work our way higher, you will see absolutely fantastic cable management. The only cables that you see here on this scooter are these brake lines, and that's it. At the rear of the stem, we do have our loop here for our latching mechanism. Here at the front, we have our headlight, which seems to have good output, but we'll absolutely be putting that to the test. And just below that, we've got our front reflector. Working our way up to the handlebars, you'll see that we've got some turn signals here, which have this nice protective rubber end cap. And those turn signals look like this. Nice and bright, visible both from the rear and the front. To the left of the turn signal, we do have this highly textured rubber grip, so we'll definitely see how that feels, especially on our longer rides. Here we've got our cable actuated brake lever, control pad with our headlight and power button, as well as our thumb throttle. Here at the center, we have this beautiful colored display, which basically has all the information you can ever want on a scooter. For example, we've got our power as a percentage, we've got our battery voltage, we've got our speed, which can be miles per hour or kilometers an hour. We've got our odometer. We've got the watts that we're pulling, as well as the speed mode that we're in. So right now it says we're in eco mode. Here on the left control pad, we can hit this ES button. That'll allow us to switch into sport mode. So two primary drive modes, eco and sport. If you push and hold this OK button here for 2 seconds, it'll switch to trip as well as trip time. To the left of the display, we do have our settings button, our left turn signal, this OK button, our right turn signal, as well as the ES button for switching between speed modes. Just above that, we have our bell, which sounds like this. And then, of course, our left brake lever, our left grip, as well as our left turn signal assembly. This VX4 does allow you to get into the advanced menu system, which you can do by pressing and holding the gear icon. Here, you're going to see user settings. You use the left and right turn signal buttons to navigate this. You've got personalized parameter settings, the ability to recover default settings, and some system settings. If we go back to user settings, if we click the OK button, we'll get into that submenu. Here you can adjust trip distance, trip time clearance, background light. You can set the units, miles per hour, kilometers an hour. You can set the speed limit settings. If we click OK, we'll be able to go into there, and it's set to 21.7, but it's actually 25. I'll show you how to activate that. But to get out of this one level, you just push and hold OK. And then the next setting here is going to be 0 start, whether you want that on or off. If we push OK and hold it, it'll take us back to the main menu. You can go to personalized parameter settings, click into that. You can enable a password, and you can modify the password if you want. We'll push and hold to get out of that. Here you'll have recover default settings, and then of course system settings. If we go into that, you'll be able to adjust minimum voltage, stuff like that. I don't typically mess with that stuff. I'll push OK to get back to the main menu, and here we are. And if we want to get out of that, you just push and hold that gear icon for 2 seconds, and you are good to go. Now, as you saw in the menu system, the maximum speed is 21.7 miles an hour. However, you can enable beast mode, and the way to do that is by clicking this power button 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You won't see any indication that it's activated on the screen, but when you go ahead and ride around, you will now be unlocked at 25 miles an hour, which I'll absolutely demonstrate on our first impressions ride. Another feature this scooter has is cruise control. In order to activate that, you can just hit the power button 3 times, 1, 2, 3. You won't see any kind of indication here on the screen, but as you're riding around, if you hold that throttle position and maintain a speed for 5 seconds, it will engage cruise control, at which point you'll see a cruise icon on here, but we'll do that on our first impressions ride. And finally, this scooter does have an IPX6 water resistance rating, which means, you know, if you're riding around and you find yourself all of a sudden in rainy conditions, you should be fine. Just keep in mind that most scooter companies do not cover water damage because they don't know whether or not you are riding around in rainy conditions or if you submerge the scooter in a lake. And speaking of coverages, this VMAX VX4 does come with a 2-year warranty, which is on the high end of warranty duration that we see in the electric scooter market. All right, folks, so that's a wrap on the feature overview. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing charged up, and we're going to take it out on its first impressions ride. All right, folks, so we are out here on our first impressions ride with the VMAX VX4. Went ahead and got this charged up to 100%. And we're going to go ahead and see how this scooter performs. Now, one of the things that I immediately notice about this scooter is that it's got a very stable ride, and I think that has to do primarily with the fact that this scooter has some caster. So the actual wheel axle sits behind the line of the front fork. And so that's going to give you really good straight line stability, which is what we're seeing right now. I really do like it when they incorporate caster into scooters, because it does make for a much more stable ride, and based on my experience, less likelihood of having any kind of wobbles. I'm going to go ahead and pull over to the side here and show you what I'm talking about when it comes to the caster on this scooter. So there's a view of this VMAX VX4, and if you're curious what my foot position is when I ride a lot of these scooters, I do have my right foot forward and my left rear foot on the kick plate. I find this gives me the most amount of control of the scooter. But looking at the caster here, as you can see, the axle for this wheel is actually positioned to the rear of this front fork and the stem. That gives you a caster effect, and basically what that does is it makes this wheel always want to return to the center line, which is great for stability, especially when you're riding around in straight lines for extended periods of time. So I'm going to go ahead and hop back on this scooter, where we're going to do our top speed acceleration test, we're going to do our brake test, we've got a little bit of a hill climb test, and we're going to test the overall stability of this scooter. So let's jump back into it. So right now we are cruising around in eco mode, and as I mentioned earlier, this scooter does have two drive modes, eco and sport. One thing to call out about this scooter is that Eco does have the same top speed as Sport mode. It just has lower torque and acceleration settings, which will help you maximize range, which is a big deviation from what we normally see with scooters. Normally you have Eco mode at like 9 miles an hour, drive mode at 16 miles an hour, Sport mode at something else. With this, you're able to top out your speed in each of the modes, but just with a little bit less acceleration and torque. Now, I don't know how well you can see it on the screen, but the controls of this scooter are easily accessible with your thumbs. So right now I can come in here and engage the turn signal if I want, or I can come in here and turn on the headlight. Very easy. I don't have to like hyperextend all of my fingers, to use the controls on the scooter, which is huge because, on a lot of scooters out there, the controls are either very far out of reach, or you have that kind of ridiculous setup where, scooter companies will put buttons on the screen and you have to literally remove your hand from the handlebar in order to engage with those controls. So happy to see that we've got some intelligent design with this scooter. Another thing to mention in terms of stability is, you never want to take your hands off the handlebars on a scooter, but I'm going to do this just to demonstrate how stable this scooter is. And here we are cruising around at 17 miles an hour. I've got my hand off the handlebar and I'm still cruising around, no problem at all. So very impressive stability on this scooter. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is the suspension on this scooter, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is a very comfortable ride. It's absorbing a lot of these little cracks in between these pavement sections very well. And that's going to be due largely to the fact that this scooter does have that hydraulic front fork suspension with 2 inches of travel, and it's actually got a very good implementation of that rubber rear suspension, which, going over some deeper cracks, I haven't heard any kind of banging around or anything, so really good dampening. We'll go ahead and test that out here, riding around on the grass. Really, really smooth. Nothing jarring about the ride experience at all. All right, let's swing around this. Very agile scooter. We'll go around this water feature here. Little test of the brakes. Looks like they're draining this thing. Coming around this turn at 15 miles an hour. Cruise on over this bridge. Don't want to fall in the water. That'd be an inadvertent test of the IP rating on this scooter. All right. So we're in sport mode. We're going to have a little bit of a hill climb up ahead. It's nothing too crazy. But, I will be doing an official hill climb test, probably multiple with this scooter in future videos. All right. We are in sport mode. We also have beast mode enabled for that higher top speed. Throttle's all the way in. And we're making it up this incline. Nope. In fact, looks like we're accelerating up this incline. So really, really impressive power. We'll come around and maybe, just maybe, we'll see if we can ride up one of these grassy embankments. It's not something I've ever done with any of the scooters that I've tested on this channel, but you know what? We're here, so why not? Let's see, we're gonna come down this steep embankment here. Putting all my weight back. Let's go ahead and see if we have enough power to make it up this. Holy cow, we're making it up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and swing back around, and we'll go test out the brakes on this scooter. So another little incline here. This thing eats it up. It feels like this scooter's got really good low-end torque. All right, so we got a little bit of a open road here. Let's see what the handling on this scooter is like cruising around at near top speeds. Oh yeah, I can tell you right now that the caster on this front wheel really helps with straight line stability. You know, we're cruising around at, you know, 20, let's look at GPS, 23, 24 miles an hour. Everything is dialed in. It's like riding around on rails. We'll go ahead and carve around a little bit, see what the handling is like. Very grounded scooter. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this scooter does have cruise control. In order to activate that, you press the power button 3 times, which I'll do right now. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply the throttle, and we're going to hold it in place, see if we can maintain a speed here for a moment, and see if we can get that cruise control to kick in. There we go. Cruise control icon appeared on the screen. We are now cruising around at about 20 miles an hour. So just keep in mind, you know, you push that button 3 times, that's just enabling the option to use the feature. But after you maintain your speed for about 5 seconds, it'll automatically kick in for you. So right now we are in cruise mode. To turn that off, you can either hit the throttle or you can hit the brakes. Now in the past, I have tested multiple scooters that incorporate rubber dampening in the rear. And I can tell you right now, just based on the limited testing that I've done so far, this scooter, this VMAX VX4, probably has one of the best implementations of that rubber dampening. Like, this is a very comfortable scooter. You know, it's absorbing a lot of the lumps and the bumps in the road very well. And most importantly for me, which might not be the most important thing for everybody, but for me, is that the suspension is quiet. There's no banging around. They definitely nailed the dampening on this scooter. All right, so what we're gonna go ahead and do now is our brake test. Give us a good opportunity to test out this 160 millimeter rotor, as well as the front drum and electronic braking. So I'm gonna go ahead and get us turned around. And go ahead and pick up some speed. See what the braking is like on this VX4. Now keep in mind, when you do brake heavily, you do want to lean your weight back so you don't go over those handlebars. We're going to do this in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh yes. So you can absolutely lock out the tires on this scooter. Now it does have cable actuated brakes. These are not hydraulic brakes. But as you can see, they do a good job at getting us to a stop. I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. You might see our little skid mark here. Goes a little ways there. And ideally, when you apply brake force, you want to apply just enough so that you don't lock out those tires. Because when you lock out the tires, you do lose traction. So I'm going to go ahead and turn around. All right, let's go ahead and pick up speed again. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and test these things out in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, very good braking power on this VMAX VX4. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get going here, head back to where we started. Maybe we'll do a little off-road riding, I'm not sure. It's not really what this scooter is designed for, but got lots of ground clearance, so maybe we'll go take it out and see how the suspension does. But one thing that I did do at the very beginning of this ride, while we had 100% battery, was our top speed and acceleration test. So I'm going to go ahead and play that footage for you right now so you have an idea of how quickly this scooter gets up to speed. All right, folks, so what we're going to go ahead and do is a top speed and acceleration test with this VMAX VX4. I've got the Draggy GPS performance monitor mounted to my helmet. We're going to go ahead and reset this Draggy app, and we do have beast mode enabled, which should take us to a top speed of somewhere around 25 miles an hour. So we're going to go ahead and do that test in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, 16, 20, 22, 23, 24, crouch down a little more, 24.7, we're holding strong, and we'll go ahead and call it there and see how we did. All right, so for that test, 0 to 10, 2.04 seconds, 0 to 15, 3.9 seconds, 0 to 20, 6.5 seconds, 0 to 25, 14.38 seconds. So what we're going to go ahead and do is try this again, but in the other direction. All right, speed test round 2 in 3, 2, 1, go. $20 miles an hour, 22, 23, 24, 24.7, we're going to hold strong, 25. All right, we're going to go ahead and call it there. So for speed test round 2 is 0 to 10 miles an hour, 2.15 seconds, 0 to 15, 3.96 seconds, 0 to 20, 6.44 seconds, 0 to 25, 12.7 seconds. So this gets up to speed pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and get those averaged out, and I'll put the final results on the screen for you to review. As you can see from that top speed and acceleration test, this VMAX VX4 has no issue getting up to its top advertised speed of 25 miles an hour. So if you're looking to reach those speeds, definitely be sure to enable beast mode. I'm going to go ahead and stop here for a moment, because one thing I haven't covered is the fact that this scooter does have an app. It's got a companion app that connects to the scooter via Bluetooth, so I'll go ahead and show you that now. All right, so it looks like the app is connected. So right now I am in the dashboard where I can see battery percentage, speed, estimated range, whether or not I have zero start enabled, what riding mode I'm in. I can't come in here and change the ride modes on the screen. All of that has to actually be done on the scooter, but it will let me know what my settings are. There's some trip tools in here, you know, distance to destination, active time, altitude, all that fun stuff. You can even come into here, go into settings, you know, adjust your units of measure, make some changes to your navigational settings. So it's nice that they have this. If you want to use a dashboard mode, you absolutely can. But anyways, that is the app. So I'm going to go ahead and do is hop back on this scooter, and we're going to go see if we can go right off the beaten path for a little bit. Turn on to this dirt path here. And we'll do a little extra testing of this suspension today. Lots and lots of lumps and bumps in the road here. Give us a good opportunity to test out this suspension. As you can see, we're cruising over this no problem at all. This will give us a good opportunity to ride on more varied riding surfaces. And then we might attempt coming up and down this embankment here. Shouldn't have any issue based on our previous test there, but this is always fun. All right, so we're gonna turn down this embankment here. It's a good little entry point. Definitely want to lean back when going down stuff like this, and you don't want to dig that front tire into the ground and go over the handlebars. Here's a lot of rough terrain. And yeah, once again, suspension's doing a good job. The thing that I'm always listening for with suspensions on scooters, any kind of banging or rattling around. So they've tuned this up really nice. All right, let's see if we can make it up this embankment. I don't know, the sun's directly in my eyes. We'll go ahead and test this out. Right up and over. We'll loop around and try that again. Here's some other aggressive stuff we're going over right now. One thing that this scooter has going for it is the fact that it comes equipped with these hybrid tires. So they're, you know, well suited to tackle this type of terrain. All right, here we go. Back up the embankment. It's always sketchy going up this thing with the sun directly in your face because, you know, there's, you can see there's like a lot of holes and stuff, like these pocket gophers out here, and ground squirrels just go absolutely crazy. And so every time I come here, it's a different riding surface. But yeah, one of the nice things about this scooter is that it's also got a lot of ground clearance. So, you know, if you're gonna be going up rounded off curbs and, you know, tackling stuff like that, you know, that ground clearance is gonna help you out. That way you're not bottoming it out and scratching the bottom of your beautiful scooter. All right. So this here is gonna be more of a gravel surface for us to ride on. But as you can see, we're riding on this kind of like hard-packed dirt, almost washboard surface. And yeah, scooters are doing a good job of absorbing a lot of this. Now, obviously, some of the bigger stuff you're gonna feel come through, but it's not harsh. There's no banging around or anything like that. All right, we'll go ahead and stop here, get some pictures of the scooter, and see how we did. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our first impressions ride with the VMAX VX4 LT edition. On today's ride, we went about 13.89 miles, so just shy of 14 miles, and we've still got 43% battery remaining in the tank. And as I mentioned, I will be doing a full-length range test here in the near future, so stay tuned for that, because we're going to see exactly how much range we can squeeze out of the lightest, smallest battery variant of this VMAX VX4. Now, a couple things that stood out to me today was the stability of this scooter, especially at higher speeds. So cruising around 25 miles an hour, no wobbles, no kind of instability at all whatsoever. Literally rides like it's on rails. Another thing that stands out is going to be the suspension. That front fork hydraulic suspension in conjunction with that rear rubber block suspension does a really good job of absorbing a lot of the impact in the road. So made for a very comfortable ride. Also, our speed and acceleration test, no problem at all. Even with me weighing in at 203 pounds, we didn't have any issue reaching that advertised top speed of 25 miles an hour. Now, in terms of some things that I think could use some improvement, one thing I'm immediately noticing is this kickstand. It's very vertical in its position, so I'll have to see if there's any kind of adjustability there. Not an issue if you're parking it on flat ground, but if you do have any kind of a slope or anything, just be wary because it does stand in a very vertical position. Another thing to mention is going to be this latching mechanism here. You know, it does a good job of holding it. However, if you kind of bounce that around up and down the stem as you're carrying it, this could come undone. And that's always unfortunate when that happens, so just be wary of that. I personally, you know, carry around my scooters, you know, with this, with one hand here, the other hand on the neck or the stem section there, and that for me is the most secure way rather than carrying it by the stem. So hopefully in future iterations they'll improve that, make like a clipping design or something. But other than that, this is a very nice scooter. One thing I do want to mention is that these controls are very easy to access, so happy to see that they did that. I don't have to like stretch my fingers out anywhere. So for being a driving machine, a personal electric vehicle, I'm very happy to see that they made very intuitive, easy to access controls. So over the coming weeks, I will be posting additional content in this video series, which is going to include our hill climb test, range test, night rides, all that fun stuff. But let me know if there's something in particular that you'd like to see me test with this scooter. And if you decide you do want to pick one of these up, I will include a link as well as a coupon in the description below. And if you use that to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel and helps keep the wheels moving on future reviews. As always, thank you so much for tuning in to Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.